Good morning or good afternoon from wherever you're watching for. I'm Shannon Williams, the CEO of the Home Furnishings Association, and today we're talking about using AI to revolutionize advertising. So we're going to explore a little bit over the hour. We're going to talk a little bit about how AI can help you optimize marketing efforts. We're going to talk about personalizing ad targeting and predictive analytics and content creation. I'm just going to dive in and talk about AI application. And so just a reminder, if you're watching, this webinar is recorded and available on demand at myhfa.org/webinar. And if you have any questions, just hit that Q&A button down below and we will get to as many questions as time allows. And before we introduce our panel of experts, I want to thank Synchrony, who is our education thought leadership sponsor. And let's go ahead and jump in. So first, I'd like to introduce Richard Harris, who is the VP of Happiness for Orbit Interactive. I love that. Orbit's a full-service advertising agency. They have over 15 years in digital experience, more than 180 products, and have successfully launched more than 20,000 digital campaigns. When he is not successfully doing that, Richard's also a professor at the University of Florida and University of South Florida, and he teaches stats and data science and marketing. Thank you for joining us, Richard. We also have Freddie Wright, who is the owner of Conquest Digital Solutions, which is also a full-service digital advertising agency for the furniture industry. And they specialize in media planning, online ad buying, reporting, and optimization of campaigns. They do this by utilizing a multi-platform approach to digital advertising, which leverages the latest cutting-edge and proven technologies combined with their emphasis on customizing a plan as unique as your business. Thank you and welcome, Freddie. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we have Eric Grinley, who is the CEO and founder of Esquire Advertising. And Eric's a marketing and branding expert attorney. I did not know that. I just learned that today. And executive management consultant. Eric launched at Esquire Advertising back in 2012 to better provide retailers with creative advertising solutions powered by advanced marketing analytics technology. So guys, welcome. Really excited to talk to you all and know how great your businesses work for the retailers that use them. So let's jump right in and talk about this. So let's start right at the very beginning. AI, it's the hottest conversation that everyone's having, specifically around marketing. So I'm going to toss this up for anyone to answer, but can we really start with talking about what does it really mean for home furnishings retailers?
Well, I would say the first thing you have to do is beware of the lie. And I say that because AI is a hot topic, it's a hot subject. Things that have always been out there that have been called machine learning, that have been called processes and things are all of a sudden now being tagged as AI, and they're not really AI. So anything that, I always like to refer back to a calculator. A calculator comes up with a formula, it has a formula base, it gives an answer. That's not AI, that's a formulaic conversion. And there's a lot of products out there that do that. Our POS systems out there, they're not all of a sudden AI because somebody said so, or, oh, we're using AI. No, they really just had what was there. They just slap an AI sticker on it, and that way they can charge more. And I actually had a vendor that told me that they moved stuff to call it AI because that way they could get more money for it. I was like, wow, that's really sad. So I would say a big part of it is watch what the lie is and don't fall for it's new, it's cool, it's AI. Doesn't always mean it's AI. Artificial intelligence should be able to process thought on its own and do formulas on its own based on the factor of direction that you've given it. So it's not a routing system, or what some people would sit there and say it's scaling itself down through a set of questions in a series. It's where you can give it a request, it comes back with an answer to that request based on it's able to go out and do its own research, do its own lookout and things from there. So I do find that a lot of what people think is AI is not. It's just been called AI because it's kind of a nice terminology to slap on what is currently out there.
Certainly true. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of buzz around AI, right? So like you saw a ton of like new tools that popped up and everybody's like, this is AI. The reality is that machine learning has been around forever. It's just that what happened was that there was an expansion of these large language models, which is really truly what the buzz around AI was over. And so for home furnishings industry and retail stores in general, the big bang for AI for them is the ability for them to analyze data using AI in a more astute fashion than they were never able to do before, right? So instead of having to, hire a company to do data and analysis for you, or hire a data engineer onto your staff, you can go in and ask ChatGPT to do the analysis for you, or you can find a whole host of products and services that are out there that are using AI. There are obviously some like great AI tools that are being used for copywriting and, image creation, graphic design, video production. And there's becomes a balance on like what is necessary and what you can use. I think the trick for any AI tool that you're using nowadays is to really make sure that you still have a human component to it, because AI is anything but perfect, and even the best AI models in the world are still making tons and tons and tons of mistakes.
Absolutely. I was going to go the content route. So the biggest thing that we hear from our client partners is, you're telling us to do blogs and social media posts and this and that. I don't have time. And you can, with the right prompt, you can simply use something like a Chat GPT, get that content and post it out. So that, I think, is step number one. That is the easiest way to get your feet wet, just in learning the prompt, mastering the prompt. If you ask for something, tell me trends in furniture marketing, you're going to get a very dry response. But if
For
you
sure.
alter that a little bit and you massage it and make it say, tell me that in a fun way with emojis, and make it conversational, suddenly the AI spits out something that's usable. And back to what Eric was just saying, you don't just want to copy and paste. You want to make it your own, make it very conversational and match your brand. I'll give an example. Eric just mentioned image generation and how it can mess up. I was creating an image in Chat GPT using just their software. And one of the services that we have, it allows us to, serve videos on like a gas pump. So I wanted an image that displayed what that looked like. And it gives me an image and a guy standing at a gas pump holding the gas pump handle. There's no car, right? Yeah. So AI completely left out that piece. So that's just a big example of how we have to watch and check fact check what it spits out to us.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing you have to be careful of now is, because ChatGPT is gone through some lawsuits, you'll see copyright things that are on there. They put the copyright pieces on that part of their searches and such in there. But due to that, all of their content has different meta tags in the back of it. So when you build content with those meta tags, it shows up if you paste that in and use it different places. Well, Google gets scared. Okay. In the reality of the world, Google used to have a consistent 96% of all search. They're dropped down, and it doesn't sound like a big number, 94% more recently. But that's a huge drop in their searchability. And what's coming on strong is Bing and ChatGPT have merged together, or not merged together, but they're working together in a search product side. And Google's afraid. So as such, they are looking for that content that has those tags on it and saying, oh, we don't want that content. We don't like that content. We're giving negatives to that content. So you find yourself having to go and either rehumanize or redo the content in a different form or fashion. So while it's a good starting place, sometimes you can't use it. Or it kind of reminds me of way back when YouTube came out and Google purchased it. If you stuck a YouTube video on your website, all of a sudden you got better circulation. Well, in this case, if you write it in Gronk or you write it in GPT or someplace else and you take it over to Gemini and have it rewritten in Gemini, it's amazing how they don't get upset if you use their own AI. So sometimes you have to choose the right tool to put it on there, because Google's going to frown upon it. And until it changes, Google is kind of the most people's judge for their website. So that is the 900-pound gorilla. If you're going to put content on there, you don't want content that's actually going to hurt you from an SEO standpoint.
Eric, I know you were going to say something before Richard jumped in. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the most interesting things that I've seen done, I know that we do this ourselves internally. We have a lot of retailers that are doing this, as well as manufacturers, which is, you can actually train, like ChatGPT or any of these others, like you can train them to basically speak in your voice and be your expert, right? So they kind of become like an extension of your marketing department. So you can go into ChatGPT and, and this goes for any of them, and you say, look, I'm going to make you part of my marketing department. Like your role is X, Y, and Z. And so I want you to ask me questions so that we can learn about my business. And really start to train it to understand you. Then you can load in all of your existing marketing assets. You can load in, all pieces of content that you've done in the past. You can load in advertisements that you've done, and you start loading in all of this data into the system. So that way it can start to learn about you and learn your tone of voice. It can learn how you write. It can learn what type of promotions you typically do. And so it can really become an extension of your marketing department and make some of that, content writing a lot easier. So that way you can go in and say, hey, look, I want you to, tell me about myself. I want you to write me a blog post about, what we're so good at, or, the servicings that we offer. And it starts making the production of content easier. And I look at all of those things as still just a starting point. You definitely, just like he was saying, you don't want to just like take things word for word and then go put it out there. That's not good practice in general anyways. And that's where I say, like, you always need that human component. You need someone to go back through, review it, rewrite it, like extend on it. I think the thing that I find that is the most lacking in the AI space is most definitely anything that deals with image creation. Probably the best use case so far for even image or creative in general is what they're doing on the video creation side, where you can basically create an avatar, and you can make a custom avatar with a custom voice, and start to have this person really kind of be the representation of your brand. So that way, like, you can roll out a series of content very quickly where you're writing the script, or having a copy AI create the script, and then you're loading it into the video creation. And there are a ton of tools out there for that make that really easy to do. And we use HeyGen a lot. HeyGen is that's GEN, works really well. And there's tons of these tools, but those are some of the ones that I've seen that have made the most difference, I think, for retailers.
The nice part about that is you can have it basically automatic posting. And trick of the world, if you post 7 to 10 times a day, you'd be amazed how fast your social media presence goes up, how fast you actually start earning money off your social media. Not that our furniture folks are in that way, but no, we have a lot of e-commerce clients that play in that world. And it's amazing how fast, because since you don't have to have a production of a human, it's basically generating content on itself, and it can build on there. And it's funny when Eric said about creating your own GPT. That's what you do, is you basically go at the top, and it's like, it says more GPTs, you go and you build your own. But in doing that, I actually did, and I know I shared this on one of the conferences I did with Caprice, was I went and took every one of us, all of our websites, everything we've ever posted, all the things we've ever done talks on, everything else, and dumped it all in, and basically turned it into a furniture marketer, and said, okay, here, this is everything everybody else has as far as out there, and made it as far as the learning piece. And it's amazing because you can ask it questions, and the information it gives back is highly detailed, to the point where I can give it a town, a city. It can give me cost per thousand. It can give me where the billboards are. It's getting to the point where now it's beyond brilliant for a place to start. And I think that's why I'd really use it. It's a starting point. It doesn't mean that its solution is the perfect solution, but it's 80% on spot pretty much every time you kind of pull it together of what that store would need, or what they would need to do to launch.
Yeah. And if you really, the magic of AI right now is in data analysis. So, like, if you use what he was just talking about, but then you pair it with like loading in all of your sales data for the past 5 years, along with the corresponding campaigns and promotions that you ran, and then you can tell the AI to basically, do an analysis of this as to like which one was the most beneficial for me based on ROI, based on the margin in my products, and what actually generated the most sales, and have it really dive into the sales data comparison to the campaigns and promotions that you're running, and then have it then tell you based on that what you should be promoting in your store. And so, like, you take a lot of the guesswork out, where instead of just promoting, a Serta mattress versus a Sealy mattress, you're looking at the data historically from your business and saying, okay, this is why during this period of time for the year, I'm going to choose to promote Serta over Sealy, or, I'm going to run a free delivery campaign during this time of year because typically it's done the best, right? And what have over all the promotions that we ran, all the creatives that we used, all the copy that we used, which one was the most effective, right? And you start pulling that data out, it's just going to make you have more efficient ad campaigns running forward. So that way you can, empower your business a little bit more.
Yeah.
Uploading.
I think that's good.
No, go ahead, Richard.
I think that's where we're seeing a lot of folks on the furniture side who've never done e-commerce finding opportunities to move towards e-commerce, because now, with more information, with understanding where stuff's coming from, they can actually sell stuff. And you don't have to sell stuff like everybody thinks e-commerce is selling worldwide, but it's really, you can sell in your backyard. They can still pick up from the store. And we're seeing, nice return ratios for clients who have done that. And it's because we're able to give that quick change of data and information and pull the inventory in and really understand, because they call them, zaps, or with like Zapier type things, you can connect different systems. So I can connect different systems to different types of GPTs or AIs. And that way it can feed information out of your POS, it can feed information off your door click, it can feed information out of your website and all your feeds. It can get all of that information, so that data is constantly enriching it and really getting it to learn every single day.
When you're working with a tool like ChatGPT, it's I don't know how much of it is just learning model versus AI, but when you're putting confidential information into the tool, how do you protect that?
So there's two types. When you're using chat where you're not paying for it, it's open to everybody. You do have a version where if you go to a different enterprise version, you pay for it in different levels, you can block different pieces, but you also can actually bring it off to a different server wall, and you can actually take it to different server walls. So we have ours split into two formats. We have a format that is the large learning model, because we're using multiple different AIs together so they can talk to each other, because some things are smarter than others. So while, and I get people freak out over the Chinese things, but the DeepSeek is really good at mathematics, okay, where Gronk's really good at marketing and advertising stuff. And so everybody has something they do a little different that they have just kind of a unique edge to. We can build all those together and let them communicate, but then fix them into one wall. And then we build another wall side of, okay, let's take that knowledge base, carry it up here, what we want, and then build that customized for the store. So now each store has its own customized AI with the building side that it can reach out and get additional information from the other side of the wall, but it doesn't allow people into it. So it's just learning how to build the product sides out that way. We're doing a lot of that, especially on the customer service side and sales side with April and other tool pieces. That way we can really help people extend sales, nurture leads, get leads in. How do we follow up with customers? What's our products? How big is that? What's the size without looking it up? All that type of information is available instantly. And you can also have it to where on the website, it can communicate with a customer like a human does, instead of the old chat bots where it's just kind of going through a tree and saying, okay, one thing, next thing, X thing, and it's just frustrating. And you're yelling at it, give me a human for a change. Now it can actually answer questions that make sense and follow not just logic, but follow how customers ask questions and what they would be asking about furniture.
Really just, like if it's free, your data is not protected. So
Correct.
you know what I mean? You have to just look. I mean, they're pretty open and obvious about it. If you go to the different websites, the different tools, and look at the free versus the paid plans, the free plans will say that you're contributing to the large language model, and then some of the paid plans will say you're contributing, partially, and then there'll be a plan that says, hey, not contributing at all. And you just want to make sure if you're ever loading up anything that is, proprietary, confidential, or consumer data, that you're not putting it into anything that's a free model or free tool. You need to have that separated. Otherwise, not only are you risking your own business, you're also probably breaking the law. So
interesting. So so interesting, because one of the questions that came in was about when you're doing a free or paid model. So it's really just about the confidentiality. It was really the difference of what you're getting. You're not getting a different quality of output, or
sometimes
you get a different quality. Yeah, because they do have different ability to reach out. Like when chat first came out, it was limited to everything prior to 2021 or 2022. And if you wanted current stuff, you had to pay for it. As these different versions go out, you do get extended information, extended band. So I know the big stinky right now is Gronk 3 launched, and they're charging a ton more money for that. They were other one because it offers a better programming side than what the original piece was. Now, if you're not a high level user, you're not really going to notice that big difference. But if you're using it for lots of programming side inside of your own systems, then you may notice that difference, and it may be worth the extra, $10 a month or whatever it happens to be. But to somebody else, they're like, yeah, I'm just asking it where the best Thai restaurant is in town. That then you're not going to get any value at paying the extra money for those things. And I think that's where it's understanding what are you trying to do with it and why before you pay for it, because it can get real expensive. I know, one of my AI bills on a monthly basis is pretty up there on the pricing side, not one I would say that any store would want to pay for it, just because we're using it to do a lot of other things.
90% of the AI stuff that's out there is irrelevant for the average store.
Yeah,
it's just like it's a great buzz, and a lot of people are concerned about it. But the reality is that most of it is just either one, not at the level where it's going to be easy for them to utilize and put into their business, or it's not at the level yet where it's trustworthy enough to utilize in their business, right? So, like none of these things are foolproof. And for most retailers, they really need something that's foolproof because they don't have time to, like dive into all of these tools and get into the nitty gritty of it. They just are dealing with like, hey, does this make my life easier? Right. And so, most of the tools, that's how I would just evaluate them, is like, hey, is there a way that this like alleviates, some pain in my business? Does it allow me to maybe cut costs in certain areas? Right. Or, maybe take advantage of things that I, don't really do enough of. Like, so for example, I think one of the best case scenarios for stores right now is utilizing AI to do employee training, right? Because there's new products and things that are coming out every day into their stores, and they need their RSAs to be trained on all of those products in order to sell them well enough. And you can basically take the training materials that are provided by the manufacturer, put it into an AI, have it write a script to explain this to your sales staff, and then create a video off it that then can train them on every product in your store, rather than them having to bring in someone from the manufacturer or learn it themselves and then like train their whole entire team. And it's like, how do you have time to do all this training and make sure that everybody's on the same page, when realistically you can just have the AI train them and ask them a series of questions about the products to ensure that they actually understand it and know it. And all that stuff is something that is very easily done for a retailer, and it is very effective, and it doesn't really open itself up to too many mistakes, because you're telling it to basically create off of the data that you're giving it. And then you're just saying, hey, create me a video that trains them on this thing. So there are simple things like that make your life easier as a retailer.
Yeah, Scribe AI is a great example of that. You can put Scribe on anything and it will actually watch all the keystrokes, all what screen somebody's on, give everybody, write it down, and then convert it right over to it. So you can have that in place and it will actually put all the steps out for somebody. So it makes it really simple for somebody to come back in and go, oh, this is how we do that. So Bonnie, who's been there for 20 years, and she seems to be the only person who knows how to do this, put Scribe on our system, let it go through. And then before you know it, we can train 4 other people on what Bonnie does. So if she ever goes out or she retires, there is a way to continue that process forward.
Hey, Freddie, one of the things that Eric was mentioning is looking at the business, like the issues that are happening within the business. Can you talk about some of the biggest challenges that retailers are facing today in advertising, and then how AI can actually help overcome them?
I think just standing out, right? Keeping up with the competition, knowing on the sales floor, what are the products that are moving? So all of us have talked about how you can upload different sales sheets and databases. And from there, I think just standing out in front of that customer is what we use AI a lot for. So I was actually going to tag on to the conversation we were just having, taking a step back for those people who are on the call that might just be starting with AI. The original question, I think, was, is paid worth it? And one of the things that you'll run into on ChatGPT, just because that's the big one, right, that everybody hears about, there are some limitations. So as you're getting familiar with the prompts and you're setting up and trying to figure out the persona and teaching it, some of the GPTs that you add, there are limitations. So it might be worthwhile paying for that subscription once you get in and start playing around. But I think just using it to come up with creative ideas. I heard promotions thrown out in the conversations. I heard what sales are working best. You don't even have to upload data. We have a lot of client partners that we'll talk to about, just say, here's my business, here's what we do, here's a general idea of what our sales look like, here's the products we feature. Give me some ideas for a TV script or a radio script or digital ad or whatever it is. And I think just using it as a starting place to really get that information that will help you to, just focus on, yes, strategy, but definitely creativity, and just making some data-driven decisions.
Yeah. It's like a great brainstorming tool, right? So like, in the furniture industry, sales and promotions are kind of repetitive and somewhat stale at times, right? Like, so retailers struggle to kind of come up with something new. And these types of AIs are really great for kind of being a sounding board, where you can kind of like, just use it as a brainstorming tool. Like, where do I start? Like, give me 10 new, interesting, and unique ideas for promotions for a furniture store, for a mattress store, right? And then it's going to generate you 10, right? And then from those 10, you go, I kind of like number 3. So could you, utilizing number 3, could you expand on that more and give me 10 other ideas that kind of mimic that, but are a little bit different, right? You can be very conversational with an AI. And I find, and like I don't really necessarily have any, I think, direct proof to back this up other than my own experience with AI. But I find that when I give feedback to the AI, like, I like this, I don't like that. Thank you for doing this. Let's look at it this way, right? Like really treating it like it's a human. You get a lot better, interesting ideas and better results from it. And so, like as a springboard to do anything, I think like stores are always going to struggle with what's a good promotion to run and what's not. What's unique and what's not. You can ask it even like, what's the likelihood that this is successful, or like it's going to be a good sounding board for you and give you just plain and simple advice that is not like biased and, well, it's not supposed to be biased in any sort of way, but it's not coming to the table with like, I want to like please you, right? So it's going to give you just direct feedback. Like if it thinks it's a bad idea for you to run that promotion, it's going to tell you it thinks it's a bad idea. It's not going to just tell you yes because you want to hear yes.
Well, and I'd say the way to always start that out is ask the AI what questions. Ask me 20 questions that would help you get more information to give me the right answer. So it's an easy way to start a conversation with it, because like Eric's point, hey, I get one question, you have to ask another question. Sometimes have it ask you questions. Just put a prompt in that says, I want to do this and I want this about this. What 20 questions you need to ask me to understand how to give me information? And it will go through and you can answer those questions. And it's a great way for it to learn what you want it to learn, but also for it to now have a basis of where to start. Because when we say just feed all your information in, that sounds simple, but it's not, because you have to understand how to feed the beast. So sometimes having it just ask those questions so that you are feeding it, but you're feeding it out of your head into the machine. And that's a great place to get started. And it's a really simple way for everybody just to, here, I just want to know about this and I want you to be this. How could I do this better?
One of the
so often see partners, they will start that conversation and they'll ask it a question, give me 10 answers to this. And that's where they stop. And that's what we talk about a lot is tell it, yeah, you're not on the right path. Give me 20 others, but go this direction. Like definitely keep it conversational and treat it like a human.
One of the big things that you had mentioned, Freddie, was standing out and using this tool to help people stand out. And a question that came in was really about SEO. And so I know many people are using AI for the SEO. I think that there's been some call outs from companies to say, Google search algos is probably going to flag AI content for SEO. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a great starting point, right? You definitely can go there. You can ask it questions. What keywords are my competitors ranking for? Write me a blog article that is SEO optimized, things like that. But then never just copy and paste. Always make it your own. Make it fit that brand. And again, if you get to the point that you've trained it, it's going to be a little bit more detailed. And you might have that inclination of, wow, I could just copy and paste this. This is perfect. This is my brand. This is my wording. This is exactly what I would say, but always customize it is what I would say.
Yeah. And I also think you have to pay attention to what's happening to SEO in general. So it used to be every 4 to 6 months, we had to make some adjustment for SEO. And there was a major adjustment, maybe every year or something. And we had to go there. That's when you heard those terms of, all these black and white little animals that were out there, and such as zebra and penguins and all those things. But the reality now is Google has made adjustments to SEO every couple of weeks. The last 6 months has been literally like jumping through flames of everything changes and things go down and things change. And it's because of AI. There was a great little AI that came out a couple of years ago called Cheetah AI. It worked really well to do your SEO and it really shot your stuff through. Now, if you use it, I will tell you get torched in a heartbeat. By Google, because they've gone and done everything to block that, because they see it almost as a black hat. Basically, you're trying to do something illegal. You're trying to do something that's not really, in the foundation of what it was meant to do. But as you look forward of how they're kind of moving in that SEO front, when Google had a big purchase into Reddit, now when you do a search, you get things out of Reddit. You get this kind of direct answer before you get to the paid searches and before you get to all the organic searches. And what we're seeing is this ability of now using AI as a part of search. And as they use it more as part of search, you're going to have content that these AIs can go to, grab as content to answer that search. But the difference is they're only giving you one answer. In the past, we would do a search and we would get 3 paid sponsors. We got 10 organic sponsors after. We got choices. Well, what's happening, sadly, is we're not getting choices. We're getting an answer. And sadly, people are what people are. Cool. It must be the right answer because it gave me the one answer I want. And they may go down that road, didn't find it, try to answer and ask another question. But a lot of times that's the answer and they go with it. But because things like Reddit were getting pulled in, you could actually generate a Reddit account, ask a bunch of questions out there, answer the questions, and you could find yourself posting up on Google in the search on SEO. And it was a great thing. It was working out beautifully. But now we're seeing that happen across multiple pieces. When you go and see something in chat as a search, it will reference all these articles. Again, that's part of that copyright side. Well, that means you have to now put out articles. You have to put out information where it's not just about putting stuff on your site and content there, which is important, but now the old-fashioned, what we call backlinks or reference points, have become huge. Where can I put reference information that relates to my site to get me in there as part of how that search? Because whether we believe it or not, we're probably about 2 years away from watching a massive change in what we would think of as search today. Search will not exist in the format that we see it today, and SEO will maybe become the new form of search, but in a different format. So it is really fast changing of how this is moving and kind of being run, all because of AI. So all those dollars people are dropping into earn a certain word, and I'm going to show up for this particular mattress for the sale, that may be absolutely useless in 18 months. And that's where we have to start looking at how do we use that content better. But again, your content can't be word for word pasted from one place to the other. You've got to, and there's other AIs out there called Humanize, and will humanize things, but it's also looking at use the right formats for what it is. Google wants to see its Gemini format. It pats you on the back for it. Great, then use it. That's not my favorite AI by any stretch, but it does work to do those type of functionality.
Yeah, it's interesting. SEO is one of those things where backlinks have always been king. They will always be king. Nothing's ever going to change that. And for those people that don't know, like a backlink is just another site that's linking into your own site. And you're basically getting the authority from wherever their page ranks on Google. So if like a site is linking to you and their page rank 1, then it has more authority for whatever it is that they're connected to on a search term. And so backlinks will always be the number one thing. Google will never come out and say, hey, we're going to, do this in our algorithm or do that in our algorithm. Really, as they make changes, it's up to like the SEO experts that are out there to kind of like dissect it. And there are, I think very few SEO experts actually in the world. Most people think that they know SEO, and the reality is that they have no clue. And so, if you follow some of those real thought leaders in the SEO space, most of them would tell you that like, you can use AI to generate content, no doubt. But you always run it at your own risk because you don't know really what's going on in the background at Google. Right now, there doesn't seem to be any sort of negative effect to your SEO by using AI, but there's also not necessarily a positive effect either, right? So content's one of those things where you put content out and then you hope that it's authoritative or interesting or like engages people on Google. You want to keep your website kind of constantly clicking through and making sure that their crawlers don't ever get stuck. But the AI component of what Google is doing now, I think actually is really interesting. And I think, Richard's idea of, using Reddit to kind of like try and get some information out there is an interesting idea. Obviously, the more that you can get people to write articles about your store, show up in local media, right? Like those things are very helpful. So, being more community involved so that way you can, get some of those local articles will be very helpful to your store. And then I think one of the things that has to sort of become almost commonplace for people now is to go into these different AIs and like go into Gemini and tell it about your store. and start training the AI in the public large language model, right? Like start telling it about your store. Start telling it about your store and where you're located. Start telling it, why you're the best, or, the types of sales that you have. You start educating the AI about your store, because more than likely it doesn't know who you are, right? It doesn't know about your local store. So you start telling it about your store. And then, if you have some authority to back up those things, like, yeah, like this local news station just did this article about us, and like give it a copy of the article, send it a link to the article, tell it about that, have it ask you questions about it. The more information that you feed into the large language model means that you're going to be participating. So then as these different AIs start sort of ruling the search space, well, it's going to know about who you are and where you're located. So it's almost like you're doing SEO for the AI, right? It's kind of like when Alexa voice came out, years ago. People started making sure that you were basically putting your information into Alexa, so that way it would be able to reference you and know who you were, to optimize for Alexa voice. So that way you could ask Alexa questions, and then, it would know that, hey, your store is located here. There are store hours, and, so now I don't think that from a period, that never really took off, right? Like Alexa, like, is its own thing, but the usage of it and the need for it never really took off. AI has much more legs to really become the dominant search. And so telling it about who you are, always educating and always letting it know, is always a good thing and can never hurt you.
To your point, Eric, it's also really interesting to reverse that and ask AI who you are, because it is wild what it picks up. And it gave me a really clear understanding that perhaps, our marketing needed to reboot, to telling a better story, because what's out there, maybe there's pages that have not been updated, or whatever it's swiping, whatever it's picking up. It was mind-blowing to me. There's a question that we're going to answer through this, but, as we talk about different applications of AI, can we talk a little bit about how AI can be used to better improve and on like target marketing compared to regular methods? Like can you share some examples of like how you've seen AI powered audience insights that have improved campaign performance?
Sure. It really just comes back to the baseline, which is using data to dictate your audience, right? So all you're doing is basically using AI to do that data analysis for you. That's really the difference in it, right? So you're using AI to like tell you and say, hey, in this subset of people, or, in all of this data that I'm asking you to analyze, demographics, zip code level of information, census data, audience availability, maybe my past sales data. You're basically asking the AI to do an analysis of that and then tell you what type of audience you should go after. Obviously, like at least, for our tools and our technology, we utilize that just in a machine learning format we have for years. That's not really a large language model, but it's really more based on machine learning, where you're, teaching the computer over time, what to look at and what not to look at. And when you're getting into really targeted groups of people to go after, you are just using a more defined audience, and using a more defined audience gives you more efficient ad dollars spent, right? In every market across the country, the majority of agencies would tell you that you need to advertise to your entire market, or to a DMA, or to, zip code level. Even from like direct mail, they want you to do every door direct mail and drop it to everybody, right? They want you to buy big, large TV spots and advertise to everybody. The reality is that inside every single market across the United States, not like everybody is buying furniture, right? There's a small subset of people every month that are most likely to buy furniture than those that are not. And so using AI and data analysis and targeted marketing, you can get to the core of who are the most likely shoppers for furniture this month. And then you can go even further and say, who are the most likely shoppers for furniture this month that are also most likely to shop at my store, right? And so you start carving down these audiences to these really finite groups, and then you can advertise pretty heavily into them and see growth and change. You don't need to advertise to 50,000 people a month if your store is only typically getting 200 people a month in the door. You need to find 5,000 people a month that are most likely to shop, advertise just to those 5,000, and then you can really start to grow your business. You can be more efficient with your ad dollar. And AI will allow you to do that, whether or not you're doing that through a partner like us or the other gentleman on this panel, or if you're using like Facebook, or Google, they all have built-in AIs now into their advertising structure, and they can do some of this data analysis for you. It doesn't necessarily get you to the end, very granular step that you want to go. But if you're looking to start somewhere, it's a good starting point, right? You can load in sales data into Google, you can load in sales data into Facebook, and you can ask it to, sort of generate you an audience off of that. And it's going to make you a little bit better than just doing something that's broad-based. But there's ways to really kind of cut down and get to the core of who in your market is most likely to shop and shop with you, and then even down to the particular products or brands that they're most likely to buy. And then you start serving them an ad for that particular product or brand inside your store. And so and get to a small group of people that you can go after. Unfortunately, like for just stores in general, they can't do that typically without a partner of some sort.
Yeah, and what he's referred to is what we call nowadays, or the DSP side of things, it's personas. So what happens now, and it's kind of scary, is it's first-party data. So first-party data is knowing that I know who that person is on the other end. So when we talk about entering that data, if I can enter that person made a sale on this day, so they bought $1,500 worth of furniture on Wednesday at 2:00, that validates that I know that person actually did business with us. What that allows the DSP side to do, and DSP is a demand side platform. We are one, but we also use several, just like everybody else here on the panel does. But in that side of things, it allows us to go out and say, okay, we know this customer, give me other customers. And you heard like lookalike audience, but in a persona, it's not a lookalike, like a demographic. It's same kind of buyer, same kind of shopper, all these types of behaviors, things they're doing prior to that other people did prior to. Well, the more data that you have, it means the more personas you can touch, because a persona has to match to somebody who actually shopped with you. Well, if you have multiple different types of customers in a market, I may have, I know like one, I have a place that's like a family-friendly place to go drive go-karts and other things. Well, that place has thousands of people roll through it on an ongoing basis. It just happens to be next to one of our stores. So at the same time, I'm picking up all that family data over there, and I'm picking up this, and it's all running into the same information pod. So now I can build personas from their data for furniture and vice versa. So it allows us to really be able to pick up and take that first party data. And now, where it used to be, I'm trying to get to a demographic slice. Here's my women 45 to 50 with this income that live in a house that's this much and all that. And you're just kind of slicing it down. Now it's very much more precision targeting. And that's where the AI side is able to carry it. But because of protection side of things, we can't just give somebody, here's Bob and Bob did this. The way they're loading this in is that first party data stays that protected, but you have to validate that you know the customer. And that's the way we have to get it, is from those actual sales numbers, those sales figures. So it always seems strange when I ask a client to send me all your sales for like the last 6 months, and I want, the timestamp when this, are like, why? They already bought. It's more to build that type of information and really get a good sense of where those customers came from and where can we find customers just like them.
I think if we even take a step back from that, and let's think about the sales funnel, right? So at the very bottom of that sales funnel are people that are in market for furniture, in market for mattress, and that is typically who ads go after, right? There are AI softwares that probably all of us on this call are utilizing too, that analyze from those people that we're targeting at that very bottom of the funnel, in market for furniture and mattress, who else looks like them based on clicks. What browser were they using? What time of day was the ad clicked on? What device type were they using? What ad worked the best? And so it's helping us now to reach people at different levels of that funnel. Maybe there's somebody out there who just signed a contract to buy a house yesterday. They're not in market for furniture or mattress yet, but it's good to go ahead for branding purposes and get that ad in front of that person. So I think AI analyzation, not uploading any data or anything like that, but just using the tools that are inside of the ad server platforms are useful and worth talking about here too, because then it helps us to know what websites to serve them on, what apps to put them in, but then also the creative that's being shown. There are AI tools that are always in play that help us, your advertising partners, know Like, what color is this person most likely to click on? What call to action button is going to work? What layout is going to work? And it's automatically adjusting the ad that is being served in real time so that we're able to do our job even better in getting that customer to come in the door. So I think all that ties together with both what these guys are saying. I just wanted to kind of take a step back and think about it from the sales funnel too. There are tools that are automatically doing some of this stuff that maybe our clients never even know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as
Yeah, I
we
mean,
talk
maybe-
generative AI, as far as changing it's great. We're changing that copy on the fly to meet the customer at the time the customer is seeing it. And those things make a huge impact, because there's a difference between showing somebody a $4,000 sofa and showing them the $498 special. That's, you want to have it the right customer seeing the right type of ad, not a generic ad.
I think also too, you have to be really careful about it's like some of these, so-called AIs for audience segmentation or audience building that are, in the platforms, right? The reality is that the majority of them are still using, cookie-based data in order to build up those profiles. And so, it's very broad in and of itself. And I'm always a proponent of using offline data versus online data. Especially when you get down to looking at someone's individual demographics and that, online cookie-based demographics are just sort of irrelevant at this point. I always tell people, if someone's saying hey, these are mattress intenders or furniture intenders, your red flag alarms should be going off, because, anything that's online cookie based at this point, you can go do an analysis of your own cookies and it'll show you that your cookies basically will say that you're 10 years old to 65. You make anything from 10,000 to $1 million, right? So when you go in and you're using some of these audience segmentation or audience building tools and saying hey, AI, tell me to find people that look like this. If they're optimizing to a click, right? It's going to find more people that click, not necessarily more people that buy. If you're optimizing to getting someone on your website, right? It's going to optimize to literally get someone to your website, but not necessarily someone on your website that's going to buy from you. And so the systems are always set up in a way to benefit the advertising technology company, right? The Google, the Facebook, the Yahoo, the Bing, right? They're not your friend by any stretch of the imagination. They want to sell you advertising, right? They want to sell you more bigger audiences, and they want to make it look like it's performative. And so performative in the general scheme of things is typically based off of click-through rate, right? And so just be careful in just going in and doing these things. I think, obviously utilizing your own first party data, like Richard was talking about, is going to be, one of the best things that you can do. If you're not looking at your own data first and using that to build off of, then you're sort of nowhere. But even if you use that in a Facebook or a Google or whatever, right? You have to look at what is of your data that matches. And then from there, what part of your data did it actually match? And so, do some front end work before you load in your data. Load in the people that are really your best customer first. Don't just load in all of your customers, because if you load in all of your customers, you might be optimized towards the $299 mattress purchaser versus the $4,000 mattress purchaser, and they're never going to tell you which one that they optimized towards, and they're not going to tell you who they matched with and who they didn't. So you go into these things and say hey, I'm going to do this thing, and it sounds great. But the reality is that you're still at the whim of their platform. And so without that knowledge and understanding, you're going to just end up with a really broad-based, non-effective campaign. And so you still have to, break up your data, break it up into groups, load it in separately, segment it all off, and do all that stuff before you bring it anywhere. So that way you have more control over it. Because these tools, again, they're going to match to the broadest thing possible to give you the biggest audience possible, because they still believe in big audiences bring bigger traffic. But really the truth is bigger audiences for them just bring them more dollars, because you have to pay more to advertise to a bigger audience.
Since we only have about 10 minutes left, the big question I think that everyone's asking is, what are the top AI tools that we should be trying to help with advertising and marketing? Can we talk a little bit about those? What are your suggestions? And before we put them out, please recognize these are not backed or tested likely by the Home Furnishings Association. So these are our experts who
Yeah.
use these tools, and we hope that you have some success. Hope you hear from you if any of you guys choose to enable any of these.
My number one tool for retailers to check out would be Jasper.ai. It's a great tool for copywriting, email marketing, just everything in general, for advertising in general. That's a good tool that they could check out. I think it costs like maybe 30 to 50 bucks a month, to get started on Jasper. It's a really great tool that they could use, and it's an all-around thing. It's not going to be necessarily a creative generator like Canva or Midjourney, which, like if you're looking to create images, I think that those are both solid options. And then I think from a video standpoint, I would check out HeyGen. I think Jasper, HeyGen, and Canva are probably the three best tools that they could check out right now that are not that expensive, and could kind of put them in a good place.
Freddie, same
Yeah.
tools that you would suggest?
I'm just trying to think about some things that we haven't talked about, and a lot of retailers probably have email databases. So I'm trying to think, like MailChimp has an AI that will help you to generate like, subject lines and best time of day to send those emails, and it'll suggest content. So just trying to think about all of the tools that we have at our fingertips, and that's one. I think back to what was being said about Jasper, just to create all of those things that were said. But one thing that we use it a lot for is just unique product descriptions. So not only, content for the website, but really drilling down and getting the product explained in a different way. And then, there are the tools that if we wanted to get into, like, I think a big thing that a lot of our customers will run into, they'll come to the showroom floor, they'll buy a piece, and they're like, I think this will look good in my house. I'm not sure. So there are also tools out there that we could even provide a list of. There's several that allow you to do like, show me this piece in my house. And I think that is an AI tool that every retailer could benefit from.
Augmented reality.
Yeah. But that I think would cut down on returns too.
Yeah, I would say the other one, which, and this is going to sound bad, but a lot of the websites are kind of the same companies doing the websites. I would look at like something like a Griffin, to where you can actually make the face of the website different, so that you don't have the same type of look and feel. There's a lot of same in the business, and sometimes inside of let's say a larger market where there's 4 or 5 competitors, and it's amazing how 3 of them may be on the same website company, and the website looks the exact same, and they're getting kind of the same feeds and everything. It just doesn't make me feel like I don't get the sense of what you do different, what makes you unique. And I think that's a big thing that I try to express to dealers all the time is people buy from you. They still buy from people. It's not necessarily, we can put all the fanciest things and drive as much traffic and drive people there, but they still buy from people. And your website is their first chance to see you. And if you're the same as this guy and you're the same as this person, then what makes you different? What makes you unique? You've got to express that in there. And that's sometimes hard for people to see, that is your first chance. That's your first introduction to folks. And I think it's a good one there. And I know Erica mentioned HeyGen. There's a lot of other ones out there that allow you to do those personalities. But we used to deal with a gentleman way back when, sadly he passed. And when he passed, they turned him into a cartoon character. And his little cartoon character marched around and still marches around today on ads. Not the Bob's cartoon character, but a different one. And, he runs around, but they were able to keep his personality, keep his voice and things kind of going in that way. HeyGen does that for you, but you can also make it to where it's a AI person that will never go away. You never have to pay. You can pick it to have a voice of whoever you want it to have, and it's there, and it becomes your spokesperson. If you're one of those stores that feels like you need a spokesperson, I don't think every store needs one, but sometimes when you get your audience gets too old, you sometimes have to put somebody in that looks a little younger, feels a little younger. It helps to bring people around to see that you might have other opportunities, other ways to bring that into a place to where it's like, oh, you do offer stuff that's here. I thought you were just mom's store. So you can get them that kind of side of there. And I think I always pronounce it wrong, Synthesia, something like that. Also on the video side, there's different ways to kind of pronounce. So like Freddie's Lab, I These some of the
No,
names you guys come up with, I can't pronounce them to save my life on there. But you can put, even simple things when you talk about Canva, beautiful AI. Beautiful AI allows you to kind of build out some easy PowerPoint pieces, either other pieces together. It's been around for a long time. So there's some really simple tools out there. It's just really kind of getting what you're comfortable with. And I will tell you, we've done a couple of different things through HFA. And if you go back, there's several seminars we have where we post up dozens of different things that you can do. I know it's even like one of the things that we talk about all the time right now is our April Assist product, which is just really helping retailers on that front end for sales. So it's really kind of carrying that piece through and doing pieces from there.
I think one tool too that they should check out, because one of the, I think at least it takes the most legwork for stores, is keeping up with social media content just in general. I think it's called Okoya, Ocoya, I believe is how it's spelled. And I haven't personally used this, but I know we have a bunch of clients that use this tool. And it's definitely worth checking out, but basically it helps with generating social media content, posting it, scheduling it out, sort of like almost like a pre-step to using like a Hootsuite or something. And now Hootsuite and some of these others do have AI involved in them now too, but that one I know is like really cost effective. I think it's like maybe like 15 or 20 bucks a month. And it would really kind of take away some burden off of current retailers that are just watching this webinar. Like if you want ease of use in generating social media content, and social media is one of those things where content is king. It will always be king, and so the more that you can generate, the better off you are. Even if you're not really getting a lot of views or interaction on your social media content right now, it doesn't mean that you won't get it tomorrow. And so you just got to keep on plugging away at it and keep on doing it. And it's hard for retailers to kind of keep up with that pace of what is necessary. And daily content's the best. A few times a week is good. And but if you can, the more you can post, the better off you'll be. So using a tool like that will help you get it done for a couple bucks a month.
Yeah, I know even like our internal tool we use goes and looks at all your competitor sites, sees how those things score, how many people got to them, sees where it goes, and then helps generate new stuff that relates to the best things that other people are even generating. So you can actually, in essence, steal and keep going. So it's like it builds its own social calendar, but then it looks to see what else is happening out there. And you don't have to make it for your own backyard. You can say, man, I really love John's market because he's in my 20 group, or where I want to see what his market, you can make it copy his market. So you can really have it to where it can mimic and never carry some things off that you may be seeing someplace else because maybe your market's just not that exciting. And that's okay.
With the last couple minutes that we have together, can you guys just to give, for anybody retailer that's watching, that's looking for that first step, or what's the major gem? What's one last piece of advice they need to walk away with today if they've heard nothing at all? Freddie, can you kick us off?
Yeah, I think just don't be scared of it. Get in, start playing with it, start talking to it, talk to it like it's a human. I will say master the prompt. It took me a while to master the prompt. And finally, once you get it, like both Eric and Richard have said, it learns and then it starts to spit out information that fits your brand. So talk to it like it's a human.
What you got, Eric?
I would say go and download ChatGPT onto your phone today. And start using that for the things that you search for on a daily basis instead of using Google. And that'll get you somewhat familiar with just using an AI. And you'll start to see some of the power that's involved there and what it can do for you. And that'll be a great introduction to AI just in general. Because as soon as you start using it, you'll realize that it's not that big, 3,000-pound gorilla in the room. Like it just, it's easy to use. It's not that big of a deal. And then go out and just, ask the ChatGPT about what things that you should be doing. Ask the ChatGPT, what you could do for a furniture store or what tools are out there to help you. And it'll be sort of like a recall of this conversation, I think, for the most part, right? ChatGPT is going to be saying a lot of the same things that we've been telling you today. And what you'll realize is that at your fingertips, you really have the smartest employee that you ever had. And so just start using it.
And I would even take you to even a more broad view. What are the places where you have pain points in your business? Whether that's the back of the warehouse, whether that's, retouching up with a customer, whether that's your salespeople following up. And I would come to any of us and ask, do you have a solution for it? because that's the cool part right now is there are AI solutions for all of these things. And really, you know, it's not as much of just sometimes just going out there and experimenting because it's very costly to experiment. It's let's help you find a way. And I think that's the one thing that all of us can do is really help you find the tools to really fit and make that thing go forward. And, you know, you'd be surprised how if we can save on 2 employees that, you know, disappeared, that we're doing something that might have been considered, you know, needed, but not needed for 40, 50,000. So if you can get it done with an AI for 5 or 10,000 and it's working, look at that money you save, look at that margin that you grew. And I think that's really where the opportunities are going to be in the future is taking some of those different jobs, pieces of a job, not the whole job, but pieces of the job that are just so mundane and routine and really moving them over to the AI.
Yeah, I can echo that. I was talking to a top 100 leader that said they just decreased their accounting department from 23 to 2 people using AI. And so obviously payroll costs will be one application, but you guys have mentioned quite a few for generative use and productivity. And I appreciate the time that you guys had. Thank you guys for sharing all the expertise. And for those of you guys that attended, thank you. Please don't forget to explore our resources and upcoming webinars just for more strategies on how to drive your business forward. Our next webinar is going to be on Thursday, March 6th, and it's called The Hidden Value of Employee Benefits. We're going to talk a little bit about strategic employee benefits that can better enhance retention, morale, performance. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Richard, Freddie, Eric, thank you guys for your expertise. I think I could talk to you guys for a few more weeks about this on end because there's so much juice here, and I'm sure the conversation will continue. For all of you guys that tuned in, thanks for tuning in, and thank you for trusting HFA to support your business success.
Thank you.
Thanks.